So yeah, basically this is because a lot of Nintendo fans hate anime and JRPGs, which isn't too surprising because JRPGs are mostly popular in Japan. Created two generations of Nintendo fans who hate JRPGs and animes. The damage caused by these two failed consoles can't be understated. So yes, so yeah, the GameCube was kind of a low. As much as I love the GameCube was a low era for Nintendo. The GameCube again only sold 20 million copies. The GameCube had actually a large variety of games, even JRPGs. Okay, as well. But yeah, a lot of people do hate JRPGs. Again, the main reason I don't like JRPGs is a lot of JRPGs are very long, though very time consuming. I know people are like, really, you complain about a length of the game? Get a life, dude. But again, 60 hours, for a JRPG, and then of course there's probably still DLC for the game, so, I get people like 60 hours, games would be like, main stories would be like 15 to 20 hours. If you really want to complete the game 100%, of course, have a bunch of, side quests, missions, collectibles, as well. Of course, for good players, for people who know how to play games, to be 15 to 20 hours, okay? Simply skippable cutscenes, obviously, unless you really want to watch the cutscenes. Because these, 40-hour movie games are just not good for the gaming industry. I'm sorry. I can say what I want to say. 40-hour movie games are not good for the gaming industry. Okay, remember like Halo 3? Okay, I think a 15-hour to 20-hour game with difficulty options so you can replay the story over and over again at harder difficulties. Like a game like Borderlands 2, I think does that. Well, it's like, the game is not very long, but you can replay it in higher difficulties and get better things and get better weapons. There's also tons of side quests and side stories you can do in the game. So there's tons of content, and you don't have to have a 60-hour story like, let's just say, Tales of Xillia has. You can have a 15 to 20-hour main story. That's what I've been saying. And people get angry at me for saying this. Like, people get upset at me for saying this. But it's true. You can have a 15 to 20-hour main story, but also you can have a bunch of side quests, a bunch of side content. You can have a bunch of side quests and side content that add up to a lot of playtime. Also have difficulty options where you can play on a higher difficulty once you beat the game. You can do everything again on Dell. Okay? Get better items, get better weapons, and get better things. Okay? The problem with JRPGs is they're too time consuming. Okay? The reason why people don't get into JRPGs is because they're too long. Okay? The reason people can get into other games is they're not that long. I know those games now reach like 30 to 40 hours of gameplay, but 60 to 80 hours is like really reaching it. Okay? It's really like, why? Why did this game have to be 80 hours long? Okay? Especially if you want to replay that game again. Okay? It's a time consuming. Like, again, I think 30 to 40 hours could be fine. But the problem is, it's kind of like a 3-hour movie. You have to not put a bunch of filler. Because a lot of these RPGs put like a lot of filler and stuff. It's like, why? That's like, it's same thing with 3-hour movies. Like, you just have a bad attention span or something like that. Or, the problem with a 3-hour movie is the same thing with 60-hour games. Okay? You have to have it. Well, for example, a movie like Avengers Endgame can be watched a lot of times because there isn't a lot of filler in Avengers Endgame. Okay, but you have a 3-hour movie like, for example, The Postman. It's like literally have an hour of filler in the movie. You can really count out the hour of filler in the movie. Okay, Dune 2 was a pretty long movie, but there wasn't a lot of filler in the movie. It was like 2 hours and 40 minutes. But there wasn't any filler in the movie. It was an actual movie, okay? But the same thing with games. A lot of these RPGs love to have filler, love to have a lot of filler and a lot of stuff. I'm not talking about like having like side quests and stuff, but I'm talking about like filler in the storyline, and I think that's not a good thing for the game industry. If you have a 60-hour storyline game, but you have 10 hours of filler, why would you want to have 10 hours of filler in their story? But again, I think the main problem with the RPGs is they're too long, okay? Honestly, people who have dedication to JRPGs will still play them anyways, but they're gonna be. I would have 3, 15 to 20-hour games. That's I think a reasonable time for a game. I don't care what people say. I don't give a crap. But you can complete the story in like a couple of days. Move on to the next game that you have, or play the game again. On a different difficulty setting, and test your luck down. And of course, it'll take longer because it's a high difficulty setting, and it'll be harder to, it'll take longer, because you need to get accustomed to the difficulty setting and get accustomed to it. Obviously, that's not for everybody, but I think that's a better alternative to having a 60-hour game, 100%. And yeah, again, I'm not a big fan of JRPGs and anime all too much myself. Again, if you love that stuff, that's fine, but I'm not a big fan of it. And apparently, not liking it is apparently now a bad thing. So yeah, that's about this video here, and goodbye.